Hello everyone, welcome to the session. Today we have the session where we are going to talk about XLRI, campus life, XLRI's experience, and how to crack XLRI college. And you can feel free to post in whatever questions you have during the session. And we have Simran with us as a speaker. Hi, Simran. Can you hear me?
Hi, Kamini. Hello.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Simran, for joining and giving us the time. I think there are many participants who have joined who would love to know about XLRI, how to reach there, and how actually is the XLRI life from your lens. What is the reality of the life? How can you best make use of your MBA time? So we'll get started with the session, but before we get started, I want to mention to all the participants that please feel free to post your questions in Q&A section, and please keep the session as interactive as possible. We would try to take up all of your questions, so please feel free to post any questions that you have, and we'll take them. And please utilize this opportunity to know whatever you want about preparation, about life at about the opportunities available for MBA, anything that you want to know. Please utilize it. So let's get started. Yeah. So hi Simran, let's start with the basics. We'd start with a introduction. If you could give a brief introduction about yourself so that the participants are aware, we could start
Right,
with that.
right. Hello everyone. My name is Simran Singh, and I have done my bachelor's from Delhi University. I did economics honors from Ramjas College, and after that, I have 1 year of gap year while I was preparing for various entrances, and after which I joined XLRI in 2023. So I'm currently in my second year, and I am pursuing their HRM degree. And yeah, I've been here for a year, and so recently I also did my summer internship at Reckitt, Gurgaon. And originally I'm from Pune, and yeah, I think that's pretty much about me. So I did not have any work coming here. I'm a fresher. So.
Sure, thanks a lot, Simran, for introducing. And I can see there are questions that are coming up. One question is like I have 76 and 78 percentage in 10th and 12th, and she's a fresher. So, what are the chances of getting in XLRF?
Right. So I think that is something that I also won't be able to tell you for sure because I think it completely depends on your profile and your how you like present yourself in interviews and a lot of things which me as a student I'm also not aware of. But then yeah, I feel if you have a good ZAT score and because in that the thing is if you clear the cutoff you will get an interview call, so it's up to you to decide how willing are you to take the effort to convert that call. So as long as you have that whatever the cutoff is 93, 95, I think you have as good as a chance as anybody else out there to convert that call, I would say.
Sure, thanks, Simran. So the next question is like how to additionally prepare from ZAT and CAT. Maybe they're trying to understand like how syllabus is like different, and how if somebody is preparing for both exams, how to make the best strategy to prepare for both well.
Right. So I think like initially when I also started preparing for MBA entrances, I prepared for CAT majorly, and that was something that I additionally gave in apart from because nobody just gives CAT, so that's why I gave that as well. So majorly my prep was all that I did for CAT, and just before that I gave a few mocks, and those were enough because majorly most of the portion is same, just the decision making section in that is a bit tricky, and it's something that does not have. So for that you need to do the mocks, and yeah, so I think if you prepared for CAT, then majorly you just need to focus on a few mocks before that, and I think that should be good.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Simran. So the next question is, does XLRI provide an MBA degree or PDGM degree? And can you please explain the difference between the degrees available at XLRI?
Right. So XLI provides a PGDM degree, and I think it's majorly just the difference of how things are. Like most of the IMs, they also provide you with a PGDM degree and not an MBA degree. It's just known as MBA, but then just the terminology, and there's no difference as such. The course wise, we have the business management program as well as the HRM program. So that's the only difference. Like in HR, you just you focus a lot on the HR subjects, and in business administration, you have a mix of all finance, ops, marketing, etc. So yeah, that's majorly that. It's just a matter of how you say things. Nothing as such different between an MBA degree or a PGDM degree. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot. So the next question is, we know XLRI is famous for the HR domain. Are there other MBA specializations that are also good at XLRI? Like what is the
Right. So of course, we are like number one in HR, so HR is there. But then, like we have good placements for other specializations as well. So for marketing and even consulting, we have MBB who comes on campus. And even marketing, there are good roles. So yeah, majorly, if you want there are not many roles, I would say, but then fin companies also come. So there are companies all across domain who come, but then majorly sales and marketing is something that I think, or even Genman roles are something that good apart from the HR.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thanks, Simran. So the next question is like, what should be the strategy to prepare from that? And I would request you, Simran, to please like let us know in detail. I think there are a lot of participants who would love to know like what is the best way to prepare, and they may have a lot of questions on this.
Okay, so I think majorly, as I mentioned before, also, if you are already preparing for CATs, then I believe most of your prep is already on track. It's when I was also preparing, so I gave CAT and ZAT in my UG as well, third year, and but then I couldn't score as well, so I had like converts from baby IMs and new IMs, but then I thought, and even NMIMS, but then I thought I will, give it a shot again. So I took a gap year, and then that's when I studied for CAT and that again. Yeah, so I had like, firstly, you just need to like, finish all the conceptually, all the concepts you do. So I was also a student at IMS. So the classes and the modules, I did that, the CAT ones. And then after the last 2 months or the last 1.5 months are just mocks for CAT. That's what I did. And then that was up till CAT. And then after that, when I was done with CAT, so there were a lot of other exams I sat for, the SNAP and NMAT. So I just went on preparing one exam at a time. So I remember after CAT, the first exam that I gave was NMAT. So that whole week was there for NMAT preparation. And then after that, it was SNAP. So that was there. And so for that, essentially, I just studied a week before the exam, which included just giving mocks. So I think I gave like 4 to 5 mocks during that week for that. And apart from that, I did not do anything else, especially for that. It was all my CAT prep that helped me. And I believe that is a like CAT is a speed game. So you need to be like really quick and choose your questions wisely, which one do you want to answer, which one you don't want to answer. But then that is like, it's a 3 hour paper, right? So it is different in the sense you need to formulate a strategy for the same, and you cannot use your CAT strategy here because again the papers are very different. So the that it's 2 hour long, and then again the sections are also different. So to get used to that, to know your strategy, you need to give the mocks. So yeah, I think even the quant section, so the quant section is when you solve a CAT quant section, it's very sort of, you'll have, there will be a trick to, sort of get the shortcut answer. But for that, I believe the questions are lengthier and more theoretical based. So if you don't know the theory part of the concept, you cannot essentially solve those questions. So that's at least that's what it was. That's how it was for like a year ago when I gave it. So yeah, I believe that. And then again, the DM section, the decision making section, it's something that you really need to practice. I think I gave sectional mocks for the decision making sections as well because it's very dicey. You might or you might not understand what is right, what is wrong because everything sounds so similar. And yeah, I mean, especially, as a fresher, I believe that when you have not been in the corporate world out there and in those situations, you actually wouldn't realize which one is right and which one is wrong. And even after looking at the answers, I always used to be confused. Okay, why is this the answer? Because this is not something that made sense to me. So the DM section is a bit of hassle, and the verbal ability part. I think the ZAT RCs are really long. They are longer and more denser than the CAT passages. So you need to be like really thorough with your reading in that. And then you have the essay writing thing at the end of the exam, which was, I think it's not really included in the percentile, but then they have a look at it during interviews. So, that maybe if you are someone who's not very comfortable with verbal or, English in general, then that's something also you need to practice on a little bit because it will eventually, affect how well you do in interviews. So yeah, I think that's what I would like to say on this.
Sure, thanks a lot, Simran. I think that was quite detailed and helpful. But there are a lot of questions still in the preparation, so I'd like to take some particular questions. One is like people asking how to prepare well for the essay section. So could you like share tips for that?
Right. So honestly, I did not prepare for the essay section at all because GK was something I just left it on. I'm someone who actually reads a lot, and I've done like content writing and written articles, blogs. So that was something that I was already very comfortable with. So I per se did not study like prepare for it while I was preparing for that. But then if you again, like I said, if you are not very comfortable with it, then I would suggest you sort of practice just because it's like a really short paragraph that you need to write there. And it's majorly about you knowing things. So I actually don't recall what my essay topic was when I gave that. But then it's like you need to connect it to some analogy in the real world, and that's how. So they'll give you a topic which you have to like answer on your own words. So you can like go all over the place and just decide ki, okay, what this topic means to me and just write about that. And I know it's just a 15-minute task, so it's like I mean you cannot think and type at the same time. So I would say just 5 minutes you just need to structure your thoughts well and see what you want to write. You don't just have to start typing it because there's just 15 minutes. It will be much more efficient if you just take 5 minutes out to actually structure your thoughts, think on that topic, and they'll give you choice as well. So choose wisely which topic you want to go for. So the first 5 minutes are for that, and then the next 10 minutes you jot down whatever you have planned in your mind. And I would suggest in general now, like we're in July, so currently you have the time to read, develop maybe a reading habit. Not I would say that does not happen in such a short time, but still you can just maybe start reading things which you already might be doing for cat, so that will also help you get comfortable with words. And yeah, I think that's my take on it.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Simran. Let's come back to other questions in preparation because there are a lot of questions. But just to make the session interactive and cover everybody's questions, I'll go to another topic from which we are getting a lot of questions, which is about the placements. So the questions are like, what are the placement opportunities available at XLRI, and what has the placement season been like this year?
Right. So I think opportunities, like if you have a lot of opportunities for placements here, like all, see, I'm in HR, so So HR, obviously companies come here. Then we have sales and marketing, operations, broadman, general management, consulting. So we have like a diverse set of specializations that people can choose to go into. And it's not like I am someone in the batch, so I will not get opportunities to sit for other roles. So there are a lot of people in batch also, in my batch also, who have converted consulting roles, who have converted S&M roles, or who have converted broadband roles. So it's just it depends on your profile as well. So for me, when I came to so I did not have that anything. Okay, I want to go into Fin or this. I was like, if I am here for HR, I'll go for HR, and I was okay with that choice. So that's why I did my SIP in HR at Reckitt. But it's just like if you have a background in say finance, and even if you're in the HR batch, so if you have a good chance of getting a Fin shortlist as well. So it is so being in a current being in the HR batch, I would say it does not limit your opportunities. Obviously, it's tough and you need a background or something on your previous work profile that relates to that role or to get into some other role apart from HR, but you can do that as well. And coming to the placement season for us, I mean, I have the only two seasons that I have witnessed were the ones our SIP season and our seniors placement season. And unfortunately, uh, like I can say that for just for Excel because all across these schools that was the case that this year was not good. So obviously we had 100% placements. So even during SIP and for our seniors we had 100% placements, but it was not as smooth as previous year. Like before we came, before the year before that. So it was not as smooth as that. But then yeah, we did have. Really 100% placements, and it in the end it was all good. But yeah, it was something that was not as smooth, I would say. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot, Simran, for mentioning about that. There's another question which is very interesting, which is if presented with a choice between IIM and XLRI, which would someone like push for making a career in HR, like keeping in mind a career in HR, like how would you like make the decision, keeping in mind placements, exposure, career in HR? How do you choose?
Okay, I mean, I would say if you have like really set your mind to it, and then I don't see a point why I would like if you want to go into HR, then I think Accelerate would be the best deal for you. Because I am someone who had not decided this prior joining Excel. So if I was given a choice at that point, I would have probably taken IMABC, or probably what I would have taken IMABC over Accelerate. But then if you are really set on doing HR and if you have decided, then I don't see a point of not joining Excel because I don't know how HR placements are in ABC, but I have not really heard about it actually as such because even when we go for our SIPs, so most of the companies they hire from for HR roles they hire from MDI, even SCHMRD and Excel obviously. So we don't see anyone from IMABC in HR domains as such at those roles. So I'm not sure really about how HR placements are at those schools, but definitely the alumni base that you get when you come to Excel is just I don't know, it's just not something that you will get at any other B school, I would say, because Excel is like the oldest B school in this country. So our alumni base is like really strong, and we have amazing people who have been the CHROs and HROs of various companies. So that kind of exposure you will definitely not get in IMABC if you want to get into HR, is what I would say.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Simran. I think that was quite helpful. So the next question is around, can you give some personal insights on the interview process? Like this is coming from a person who doesn't have a work experience and has taken a gap year and has done graduation in BA psychology. So So they want to know like how does the interview process go like.
Right. So, coming on to this, I would also like to mention that our interviews were online. So, I am from that batch where they were taking online interviews. So now it's been completely offline, and you have to go and give the interviews. I mean, it does make sort of a difference. I don't really know, but then yeah. So, coming on to interviews, I think you just need to be prepared on. You just need to be confident, like in everything that you have done in life. So I would say being honest is like very important, because if you're trying to fake it, then you will get they will catch you at some point or the other, and you will just fumble and it will be a whole disaster. So as a fresher, you really need to know about your academics of your UG. So you need to be well versed with it. So I was an eco grad, so I was asked a lot of economics questions in during interviews. So I remember when I gave my IIM Indore interview, my extempore topic was p-value. So that is something that I was not expecting at all, and I was thrown off guard. But then, yeah, this was a fresher. They really focus on acads. So even the accelerator interview, I gave both BM and HR interview. I think it was more or less academics where they'll ask you a few economic, like whatever your UG subject is questions, and then you really need to be well with your BQs, your behavioral questions. And you need to like, why do you want to join Excel, why HR, why BM? So these are some basic answers that you need to be prepared with. And apart from that, honestly, they can ask you anything. Like there is no like a cap at what they might ask, might not ask. But the one thing I will tell you, so when I also gave the interviews, I was like concerned about my gap year. So I thought, they might ask me, okay, why did you take a drop year? Why not work and give simultaneously? But that is something that honestly I was asked in none of my interviews, including the Excel interview. So yeah, like they don't really, I don't know if they did not notice it or if they did not feel that it was a question worth asking. But yeah, if you have like a 1 year of gap year just after UG, so I think that shouldn't matter much, I would say.
Sure, thanks a lot, Simran, because there was question around gap year, and I think you have helped clarify that it's fine. So the next question is like, does the interview also have a GD, or was it like a pure interview?
No, so I think the process changes some slightly every year. So for us, it was just the interview, and there was no GD that was conducted.
Sure, thanks. So the next question is around internships. Are internships really important? And this coming from a person who is in the final year of graduation and is asking, how can I improve my profile now because I have some time?
Okay. So, internships, like I would say for the interviews, like if you want to get into a good B school, then the internships that you do now, the couple of internships that you might get the chance to do now are not really as important. But then I would say once you're in the B school, just within your first term, just 2, 3 months, you'll have like so much to do, and you'll have to make an entire CV, and that's when the internship will matter a lot, because I remember as a fresher to fill that CV, you need like 50 points, and it's just like a lot of that one page feels like a lot. So it's just, I would say if you have the time and if you are getting a good internship, I would say go for it, because once you get into a B school, that is something that will really matter. So I remember that I when had given all my interviews, so I did an internship in April, which was something even my parents were like, "Why are you doing this now? Like, why, it's already done. Your interviews are over. Now you just chill and wait for the results." But I was like, "No, I want to do this," and I think that is something I really sort of because if I would not have done that, I probably would have regretted it, because then I'd not do anything for a year and I would not have points to fill in the CV. So yeah, I mean, and I was someone who already had like 3 internships before, and I have like 5, 6 PORs. So that's how I was able to fill my CV when I went into the B school. But then, yeah, I think it's really important to, just make use of your 1 year, whatever is left of it, to get some good value add points for your profile.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Simran, for mentioning about that. And then if you have time, so the message is if you have time, why not try to go for internship? Interest it would add on to your profile. So coming to the next question, it is about somebody like how do you know when is the right time to start the preparation? Somebody is in college second year and they want to know like when should we start the preparation?
Right. So I think second year would be a bit early to start, honestly, in my opinion. It's a bit early. But then I would say, so if say if you're giving cat that is in November, then probably around Jan would be the time to start. And yeah, even like so I started both the years I started my prep around July. So that was when I started. But then I would say like Jan is the perfect time to start your prep for the current year of exams that you're giving. And yeah, that's basically it.
Sure. Thanks, Simran. So you still have time. So to the person who asked the question, so
Yeah.
let's come to the next question. It's about how do you prepare for GK? Is it like you have to continuously and consistently prepare, or like once you know like you have cleared the exam, the next few months are enough to cover that?
So that also has a GK section, and that is something that doesn't add to your percentile. And honestly, I've heard that they take into account during interviews, but I don't know how much of that is true because my GK percentile was very low, and that's something that did not affect my interviews. But yeah, so I think GK you prepare while you are preparing for the entrances. So when you go on to read, when you want to like develop a reading habit, also you go on reading articles and from current topics, read newspapers. I think that's really important. And I know you must have heard it like 100 times, but then yeah, that's the only way you are doing GK because in the end, yeah, if you are sitting for an exam which has a GK section, obviously you will want to like score well in that, even if it doesn't add to your percentile. So yeah, I think preparing for GK with your prep is really important, and that's the only way because it's not something that just a week before the exam or the week before the interview you'll be able to, know what's happening all around just in that week because there's a lot that happens. So I would say just prepare for it side by side.
Sure, thanks a lot, Simran. So the message is prepared from beforehand consistently so that you can prepare well. So the next question is like, does someone with work experience get an advantage in interviews? And the same person is also asked like, how much percentile is required to get a cutoff?
So again, like the cutoff like varies year from year, and like BM it's so in that there's a different cutoff for HR, BM, and male female. So even like so around I think 91 is a cutoff for HR female, and like obviously it will vary year from year. And for BM, it's slightly higher, so around so all the cutoffs are within the range of 91 to 95 percentile. So that's the usual range of cutoffs. And yeah, it's a simple test in that sense. If you have above the 91, 95 range, then you are definitely getting an interview. It's not like wherein your academic score is taken and then the composite score is made and then you get a interview call. So it's not like that. It's like simple and transparent like that. If you have that cutoff, then you will get the shortlist. So yeah, that's how it is. And what was the other part of the question? I forgot.
Does someone with work experience get an advantage in interviews?
Right. So I think while interviewing also they look for a mix of candidates. So they want diversity and they want as well. But I don't know if I don't think maybe it does because most of the batch size, if you batch composition, if you see, so around like 20% are freshers and rest most of the people have work ex, and you definitely have more points to talk about in the interview. And so it definitely I think adds a bit, but I don't think it's a disadvantage if you are a fresher. If you have work ex, then great, you should know how to leverage that in interviews and talk about it. Plus I feel that when you have work ex, you are in general more confident and more, sort of open about things. And as a fresher, I see people who panic, who stress out, who get nervous. So it's not a generalization, but usually that's the case. So I mean, yeah, that I think WorkX does give you a little bit of edge in interviews. So yeah.
Sure, thanks, Simran. That's helpful. So a follow-up question on that is like, how many years of work ex is ideal to jump and then do your MBA?
Right. So I think currently also in our batch, the average work ex is around 18, 17, 18 months. So I think 1 or 2 years 2 years would be ideal. Anything that goes beyond 4 or 5 years is a bit tough, because not as from a perspective of getting into a college or B school, but then when you sit for placements also, like when we were also going through our SIP season, so usually the people with higher work ex, they are the ones who are, sort of have a hard time getting placed. Especially maybe that's the case in HR, because HR is a very different field, and they want freshers, or they want people with a lower work ex. But then yeah, so I think 2 years would be ideal, and 4 5 is a bit tough. So.
Sure, thanks, Simran. So the next question was around, does XLRI have a program for data analysis?
I don't think so. I mean, the major programs we have is just the HR program, the BM program. Then we have the GMP program, which is for executives. So I think majorly these are the only ones that are, major ones. Apart from that, we might have some online or hybrid things, but I'm not really sure about that. You'll have to go look that up.
Sure, thanks, Simran. So the next question is around, is XLRI good for marketing considering its curriculum and placements?
So, honestly, I'm from the HR, so I'm not really very sure about this question. But again, like I mentioned before as well, there are good marketing roles that are offered here. So, the faculty, again, it's something that faculty and curriculum is something that a BM person would know better. But yeah, I mean, placement wise, it's good. So, we have like top FMCGs like PNG, HUL, and other ones also who come and recruit for sales and marketing roles. And not just so when you go, so usually when you sit for marketing placements, it's usually a sales role you end up getting. But then we have a lot of people in our batch also, in our senior batch also, who converted like proper like marketing roles, branding roles in their SIPs without actually going through sales. So yeah, I think it's decent, the marketing ones. So
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Simran. Somebody's asking similarly along finance placements. Are there like good finance opportunities if you want to make it from XLRI?
so the finance one, I would say not a lot of companies, not a lot of options when it comes to finance. But again, if a consulting role, if you are a finance person, consulting shortlist is something that you usually get. So that is one thing. And then there are companies like JPMC, or yeah, I cannot recall other finance companies, but there are good companies like JP Morgan, Indigo Edge, who come on campus, and they have like amazing packages, and probably some of the highest packages that are offered on campus. So yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Simran, for mentioning about that. The next question is, does Hindalco offer its YHRP program in the final placements?
I have no idea about that. Sorry.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. So, somebody is asking, should we focus on studies during our gap year, or can we work on something additional to improve our profiles during that time? How to best utilize the gap year?
Right. So by studies, I mean, I'm assuming they are talking about the MBA prep wala studies, because I don't think that there's anything else you need to study during a gap year if you are preparing for entrances. So I think it's because when I was also, so I think CAT is some exam which you don't need to devote like a lot of time to. Like you can, like if you're sitting for UG exams like JEE NEET, or that's something that you need to sit for hours on end and study for. But I believe CAT is not an exam that you study for like 12 hours a day, because that there's not much to like not a lot of portion to cover. So it is something that you can easily take up something on the side and like maybe an internship or maybe a new skill that you want to learn or maybe even take up a hobby. So something that, adds value, which you can talk about. Like if you are completely like thinking from a interview or CV perspective, then something that adds value, maybe learning to play a musical instrument or something of that sort that will help you eventually get a talking point in the interview or add a CV point or anything. And but I would say, even because in the end, a lot of people they end up doing some online course or other during their free time. But I would say that is particularly not a very good value add, is what I believe, because unless you're doing it for the knowledge, if you're just doing it for a certificate, okay, I'll just do a course and then I'll get a certificate, so it will add value to my profile. So that honestly does nothing, because these days online courses are something that everyone can do. And even when we sit for these school placements, we do not mention Coursera or any other online certifications. We don't do that. So it does not come in your CV as well. So unless you're doing it specifically from a knowledge perspective, online courses are something that you can skip, maybe focus on internships, something remote that you can, do while at home, or just something that is not very hectic, something of that sort.
Sure, thanks, Simran. I think that's very helpful. So there are a lot of options available that you can do, as Simran mentioned, to build your profile during the gap year. So coming to the next question, somebody is asking which is a good MBA college for operations management. Is it XLRI, or if you know any other IIMs that are good?
Right. So I think the best for operations would be IIM Mumbai, like NITI, which was recently converted to IIM Mumbai. So that's I think probably the best for operations. Even IIT Bombay has a really good ops role. So XRI, well, it's fine, but I don't really know a lot of people who have been placed in operations. It's not an operations focused campus. So yeah, the best would be IT Bombay and NITI.
Sure, thanks, Simran. There are many interesting questions coming up. Like, one question is, if somebody is good in singing, how to do something about it to add value to your profile in finance?
Okay. I mean, it's so when companies come, so they will not look, if a finance company is coming to pick you up, then they will not just look at what you did in finance. They will have a look at your overall CV, and they would not want to know the diversity of things that you have done. So it's not just if you're making a CV to sit for a finance placement, that doesn't mean you'll just add finance points. So you'll need PORs, you need internships, you need to show academic achievements, need to show extracurriculars. So singing, if you are really good at singing, so that's something that you can add in the extracurricular section and you can build on that. So I'm not sure how you can, like, maybe you can participate in some singing competition or something of that sort, or if you have done something on those lines during your UG where you have participated in, inter college singing competitions or something of that sort. That is something that definitely will add value to your CV. And even same goes for any other thing. Same goes for sports or music or anything else that you have done. So the companies, they are looking for diversity of things in your CV, like how, if you are a CA, but how well have you balanced your entire life and how well you done in other things as well, is something that they will see. So yeah, I think that's my answer.
Sure. Thanks, Simran. I think thanks for mentioning that it also can add value. Given you put it in your extracurriculars profile, it can add a value. So, coming to the next questions, how good are sports facilities at XLRI?
The sports facilities are decent. So, I think we don't have a swimming pool. But apart from that, we have everything. Like we have the football ground, the cricket ground, basketball court. We have the badminton court, tennis. We have pool. We have we have the tennis court also. So yeah, I think it's decent. We have a lot of sports facilities on campus, just not a swimming pool is all, I would say.
Sure, thanks. So the next question is, how many management consulting companies come for recruiting and offer a core management?
So at Excel, McKinsey, Bain, BCG, Kearney, these are the top consulting roles that come, and all of them are core consulting. None of them are backend. So on Excel, they offer a proper consulting role. So these top four they come. Then we have Accenture Strategy, Synergy Consulting, and Octus Advisor. So these are a few other consult roles that are offered, and all of them are core consult.
Sure, thanks, Simran. We have a lot of questions that are coming in, and we have short time for the session. I will try to cover all the questions. So, and if anybody has any questions, would request to please put in your questions because we have less time remaining. We'll try to cover all of them. Please put in now. So, the next question, Simran, is like, is the Delhi campus of XLRI as good as Jamshedpur campus, and like, what are the differences?
Right. So like again, Jamshedpur is like a legacy campus. So it's obviously, being I would like personally for me, it's nicer than the NCR Delhi NCR campus. So the major difference, like we have HR BM both, they just have the BM program. But overall, when you see the curriculum is more or less very similar. The placements are completely like pooled. So it's like so we don't differentiate even when we send CVs to recruiters. So the CVs go together. So they also don't know the difference. Okay, if is it a JSR CV or is it a BM Delhi or BM JSR CV? It does not. We do not differentiate in that sense. So placements are completely. We have common placements and. Even the final report that comes out, the final placement reports, those are numbers including the Delhi and campus both. So again, but then like like when I also gave that, so I had a convert for BM Delhi and HR Jamshedpur, both of them. So it was something like of a dilemma for me also because I felt like, BM, it's BM and HR is something that I never thought I'd do, but I still ended up choosing HR Jamshedpur over BM Delhi because I mean, again, we can be, it's more or less similar, but I would say not the same. Jamshedpur is still a slightly well off than Delhi, but if you're looking from completely a placement perspective, then it's same like BM Jamshedpur, BM the placements are common, entirely common pooled. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Simran, for mentioning about that. The next question is about a little tip on how to be disciplined and consistent throughout the CAT preparation journey.
Right. So I think that is something that like I was also very struggling with when I was also preparing for CAT, especially during my gap year because I had a lot of time and I just did not, you reach a saturation point at some point and you just feel like giving up. So like obviously preparing a schedule is something that is really important because if you don't then you'll just end up doing things randomly and that will just not work. So preparing a schedule and taking out time during the day for yourself to do something apart from your work or if or studies, that cat prep, anything, just taking out some time, at least an hour, to do something that you actually like is what I suggest you do because if you don't then you'll just at a point reach a saturation level wherein you will not want to continue and then you'll have like a week of unproductive day when you are not do not feel like studying. So it's better to take breaks and finding a study partner is like the best thing that you can do because both of the years that I gave CAT I had someone who was preparing along with me. So, giving mocks together and then, yeah, analyzing the mocks and, seeing what you did wrong, what you did. It's sort of the competitive vibe also that really helps you keeps you motivated and it adds to the excitement or whatever it is. So I feel having a study group is something that I would really encourage all of you guys to have. So, yeah.
So yeah, the message is like have a study partner if possible. That would help a lot and keep consistently giving mocks, take breaks. So I think that thanks Karan for mentioning. Let's come to the next question. Does being an NGO volunteer add to the profile? Because some people say that it does not. So the question is from a point of view to get a clear idea.
So again, like I mentioned, the companies are looking for as many diverse points in your CV as possible. So the social work experience, it does matter. You if you have something regarding social work, it will definitely add value to your CV. That's all I would say.
Sure. Thanks a lot. So the next question is, can you give details regarding the hiring for leadership roles by conglomerates like TAS or Birla Group and so on?
Right. So again, like TAS, ABG, they do come on campus. So I think ABG has a very clear process. They have a GD interview, 2 rounds of interviews, and that's how they hire. But then TAS has like a very complicated process. So they have multiple GDs, like 10 rounds of GDs they have. So firstly, you'll have an aptitude test, then you will have 10 rounds of GDs, and then you will have the interview. And that's how you get into TAS. So, yeah, and they do come to Accelerate. I was not a part of the process for TAS, so I don't really have details regarding it. But I just know it's a very rigorous process. So, 10 rounds, you are sort of groups. The groups are shuffled in those 10 rounds. So they want to see how you perform in different groups and how well you are doing the GD. So yeah, I think the more details I would not be able to give out of since I wasn't the part of the process. So yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Simran. So the next question is regarding what made you actually choose HR.
Right. So honestly, to be very honest, so last year, so again, it was my second attempt at CAT, and I honestly was doing very well in mocks. So I was getting I got like 99 percentile in mocks as well, and even during my first 97 percentile. So I was confident enough to like score well, and plus my profile 10th, 12th were nice and everything. So I thought I'll get a good IM. But in the end, again, when my second CAT attempt didn't go well, so I did not have a lot of options, I would say. So I did have calls from IIM Indore, IIM Kozhikode, and I did convert IIM Kozhikode LSM program also. But then again, I had a choice between Excel HR and then again NMIMS, SIBM Pune, and other colleges, but then at that time, I would say I just went with the best call I had. And again, as a fresher, I was not very clear about, okay, some people are really set on we want to go into finance. So that was not something that I already had. And so I would just say I went with the best call I had. And so when I got the call, also, I was not particularly very happy because I thought, I might not. Go into HR, like what, even if I have an Excel call, I mean, HR is something I never thought. But then when I actually talked to people around me, to people who were joining, to some alums, so I realized that it's a pretty good opportunity that I'm getting, and I have probably underestimated the level of uh, the how much value I'll get out of this. So yeah, I just went along with HR, and honestly, I'm really happy. I made that decision and came to Access. So yeah.
Sure. Thanks for mentioning honestly, Simran. Let's come to the next question. Is there any necessary graduation percentage that is required to clear that?
No, not there's nothing as such you need.
Okay. The next question is, what is the weightage given to quants in that?
I think there's a split of equal weightage across sections, but again, they keep on changing that year on year. So that is something that you will be able to know well through a Google search or something. I'm not sure about that.
Okay. The next question is, for an HRM program, should one choose TIS or XLRI? In your opinion?
Honestly, so this as far as I remember, they don't offer you a PGDM or MBA degree. They offer you a master's in HR or something of that sort. Again, this is a great college, but so the B school life that you will have at Excel is something that I believe you will not get at TIS per se, because Excel has a culture, a legacy, and it's something that even say IITs or other colleges, when you go to do an MBA in say IIT Delhi or some other colleges. I've talked to people there during my internship, and they just don't have that sort of culture, and even for FMS for that matter, because they don't have a residential campus. So when you don't have that, it's just not, you cannot compare it. So the, I would say, the B school life and the entire experience that you will have at Excel is going to be much better than something you'll have at TIS. And again, the degree difference is there. So I would have honestly chose XLRI over this.
Sure, thanks. So, the next question is, let's say somebody has no commerce background, and what can they do to understand commerce or understand the business side of things more? And is our like knowledge expected in this domain from a non-commerce student?
All right. So I think a basic knowledge about economics is something that you should have, even if you are not from a commerce background. So some sort of business acumen, it's expected out of you. So, just what's, so if you talk about like macroeconomics, what's going on in the economy, inflation, unemployment, and some basic finances like stock market, what's the same, NSE, BSE. So that's little bit of things you need to know, even if you are from a non-commerce background. And I think, so I am from a commerce background, so I've never had that issue of actually going and reading up on stuff. But I think the basic knowledge that you need to understand, the GK or the news that you read, that level of basics if you have, then there's not an issue. But obviously if you have if you know more about things, then that's something you can take up in the interview, and then they'll also appreciate, okay, someone coming from a non-commerce background has such a deep knowledge about these topics. So yeah, I think that's the basic knowledge you do need in interviews, I would say.
Sure, thanks, Simran. So we'll just take in the last question, and I'm sorry to the participants. I know that there are a lot of other questions which we couldn't cover, but we'll try to cover in the next session. Section about, we'll continuously have speakers, be it in the future you or B School Insider. So please keep watching. So the next question, which is the last question, is, if somebody wants to play sports, focus on music, reading, writing, enjoy campus life, do well in academics also, like how to do that, like how to make a balance between what you want to do and what you have to do.
So I think they're talking about achieving all of that in the 2-year MBA
Yeah.
journey. And I think it's pretty much impossible because especially during first year, so you will not have time. Like the first term is so hectic, you'll just come and you will not know what hit you. So you don't have time to even talk to your friends back home, or it's just very hectic. And I cannot explain. You will just know when you come and do an MBA, and you'll realize that. So, and but the thing is, after the first term, when you have your SIP, so things are a little light. So that's when you can take up, sports or music, reading, writing. Obviously, you cannot take like everything, because that is also like you cannot have so many things. But you can take up whatever you like. Maybe prioritize sports, music, reading, writing. Which one do you want to pick up, and which one you want to do? And yeah, you can definitely do that in second, third term. And again, after SIP, when you come here, if you get a PPO, then your second year is like very chill. You don't need to do anything. But then, and you can obviously focus on these things at that time. But then, if you don't get a PPO, and then you have to sit for placements, so again, it's going to be very hectic and stressful at that time also. And I would say like these things are something that people end up giving up in MBA, because there's a lot of things and events that are happening on campus. So there's a lot of FOMO that happens. So then I would rather go out and just roam around campus and read a book in my room, even though I love reading and have a reading habit since like sixth grade. So I don't know, it's personally, I'm talking about myself, but in general, there's a lot of FOMO that goes around here. So if you can control that and focus on these things, then great. I would say you can do all of that in to your journey. So yeah.
Sure, thanks a lot, Simran, for giving us time today and answering all the questions so well, so clearly, with a lot of like crisp on point. And thanks to all the participants for making the section so interactive. And thanks a lot for joining today. And hope you found it valuable. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.